For the third straight week, the Giants are involved in the biggest game in the NFL, or at least one of them, and you can certainly make a case that this is huge in terms of the NFC East and where they'll go in terms of the playoffs. Jason Horowitz, Clark Judge, Ian Eagle, glad to be with you on the End Zone, presented by Sony. It's the Giants and the Eagles from Philly, so maybe that helps out the Eagles a little bit. But Clark, how do you see this one playing out?
Well, I think it comes down to two things. One is who can run the ball more effectively. And we know the Giants have kind of a three-headed monster back there. What we don't know about Philadelphia is how effective Brian Westbrook will be. I mean, he looks good one week and then not so good the other, but he's the team's most valuable player in my estimation. It's not McNabb. They can win without McNabb. They can't win without Westbrook. He's got to get the yards. The second thing is pass protection. If they can't run, I'm talking about either team, pass protection is what it's all about. Because remember last year when Philadelphia came to New York, and now I know they didn't have Trey Thomas.
McNabb is still stuck in the ground.
Right, he was a pinata that game. But pass protection, because both these teams rush the passer and sack the passer.
12 sacks in that game at the Meadowlands. It was a different story in Philadelphia. But, you know, Ian, when you talk about these defenses, I mean, that's the strengths of these two teams. It's secondary for the Eagles, front seven for the Giants. Which one do you think is better?
Well, I mean, they're really cut from the same cloth because of the origins. Jim Johnson is the defensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. Steve Spagnuolo, defensive coordinator of the New York Giants, who spent 8 years under Jim Johnson of the Philadelphia Eagles. So it's all about designing blitzes. The difference subtly between the two, Philadelphia will blitz you from all angles. They'll send linebackers, they'll send safeties, they'll send corners. The Giants basically get their pressure from their front four only because they've been so dominant up front. They can rely on those four players. I think you're looking at an NFC East slugfest, probably the two best teams in the conference. And it's funny because everybody circled the Giant-Dallas game before the season started. That's the game that you had to keep an eye on that was going to determine the outcome of the NFC East. No more. Philadelphia is very much in the mix. I think they've gotten their bearings back. And as it was touched on by Clark moments ago, they're a different team with Brian Westbrook. Yeah. He just makes everybody better on that offense. I know we say that about a lot of guys. This one actually fits the category. Everybody gets better and benefits from his presence on the field on that side of the ball.
2 weeks ago, more than 200 yards of offense from Brian Westbrook. Last week, he really struggled, and then the Eagles struggled to put the ball in the end zone. They settled for a lot of field goals in the game against Seattle, but they did still score points. They have to win this game. This isn't a game. They're 0-2 in the division. Right. You can't afford to be 0-3 knowing that Dallas is going to get better when Tony Romo. Washington is good, and they're going to be good, and you have to go to Washington. They have to win this football game, the Eagles.
Yeah, they do, and they're getting healthy at the right time. And keep in mind that Kevin Curtis is back, Reggie Brown's back. You got Brian Westbrook back, too. So you have your weapons on offense, and you do have matchup problems with Brian Westbrook. As Ian touched on, I think handling that front four is going to be a load for Philadelphia. But you've got to figure out a way to defend Justin Tuck, keep him off of Donovan McNabb, and then you get, you find a way of moving down the field. I don't care if it's field goals, touchdowns, what. You've got to score on these guys because you're right. If you lose this game, you suddenly look at, Washington's down the road, Dallas is down the road. Hey, you've got the Giants again. It's a mess. And Philadelphia's got to make a move, and they've got to make it now. Yeah,
there's a sense of urgency now for Philadelphia. There's no doubt about it. The thing that works against them in this particular game is the Giants will play anyway. You want to go physical, smash mouth, they'll play you that way. You want to go pitch and catch and just dink and dunk your way, they can do that. You want to go downfield, vertical passing game, the Giants can do that as well. They are such a balanced team right now, and they have so much confidence when they take the field, no matter who the opponent is. We saw it last week, the blowout, the dominating effort against the Dallas Cowboys. They made them look like a JV team. The week before, going into Pittsburgh, getting a well-earned win. For Philadelphia, I think everybody, guys like us, are trying to construct ways for them to win. Because you look at the overall picture, you say, are the Giants really a 15-1 team? Are they a 14-2 team? They're going to be a couple of challenges along the way. This happens to be one of those challenges, at least with all the storylines heading into this one.
And the one factor that we haven't even mentioned yet, we talked about Westbrook and the weapons that Philadelphia, the guy getting them the football. Donovan McNabb, he's healthy. He's been healthy all season, and he is looking like the Donovan McNabb of old. He's third in the NFL in passing yards. His completion percentage is fine. He hasn't been giving the ball away. And you talked about the protection. He's been able to escape the pocket a little bit more than the last couple of years because he's not worried about his injuries.
Yeah, I think most importantly, he's playing every game because every year we wonder what game is he going to bow out. he is important to them. And
Hopefully it's not this one, by the
right.
way.
but he stayed in there, and that's critical to the Eagles' success.
Yeah, I think also with Donovan looking big picture, there may not be a larger disparity in the way that he's perceived by fans around the NFL compared to how he's perceived by his peers. I think there's a very high respect level for Donovan McNabb in the National Football League. People that play against them, people that have to go against him, players week in and week out. Yet, for some reason, he doesn't get that respect around the NFL as far as fans are concerned. He's having a tremendous season, does not have a big-time wide receiving core.
Right,
he's
right.
making the most of that group, and he's really helped generate this team and get their confidence now to a point where they can play with the Giants.
But that's the way it's always been with Philadelphia. Keep in mind, aside from the
My
Terrell Owens
2
segment,
years at T.O.
they've
That's true.
always had kind of subpar, ordinary receivers, but they win with their defense, they win with their special
That's
teams.
the formula.
Yep. Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. Who wins this weekend?
I like the Giants because I think they're the most complete team in football.
I'm buying into it. That Philadelphia is going to find a way here. They're just a little more desperate than the Giants. The Giants are going to have a couple of hiccups along the way. This will be one of their very few hiccups in the 08 season.
And I'm going to take Philadelphia as well for the fact that the Giants have played 2 games where they had to get up emotionally for. The Eagles, the last 3 games, the 49ers, the Falcons, and the Seahawks. This is the game that the Eagles have been waiting for, and they're going to get up. And they're at home, and they've got all the emotion of the World Series. So everybody's ready to go for all of that, folks.
I don't know if those two are connected.
It's a weak response. All right. Anyway, more on the end zone. We're going to talk about Brett Favre and the Jets. Is it his factor that they're 5-3, or is it something else? And our midseason report cards as well. Who's the best player? Who's the MVP? All that still on the end zone. For Clark and Ian, I'm Jason. Take care, folks.